Well, it's 7 p.m. and we do have a quorum, I believe, right now. I think we have four
Excellent.
members. I think we have 4 members, unless there's someone else who is on. We have at least 4.
Yep, you got 4.
Okay, so let me just start going through the agenda very quickly. Approve previous minutes. I don't have the March minutes typed up yet. And we've already approved February minutes. So approve expenses. There were no vouchers that I submitted this past month. And just one note, Mike, you could jump in, but we do have a new assistant town planner. We'll be starting in, is it June?
Yeah, she's helping us out on a part-time basis, just putting in 4 hours a week. We're basically just giving her minutes to help us out with that. So fun stuff to start. But it's immensely helpful, obviously, to my office and to the Conservation Commission, because that's the minutes she's doing is Conservation Commission minutes right now. Yeah, she will be starting full-time with us June 2nd in the office. And she'll be a part of it. She'll be coming to these meetings, most likely. So
That's great.
yeah, we're excited to have her on.
Yeah, so are we. It's been a year.
Yeah,
Since Grace left.
yeah, just about.
Okay. Let's see. A couple minutes to spare before the hearing. We can go on to the agenda. One is account updates. I sent around most recent March spreadsheet from Kenny with the balances and the active projects. There really hasn't been any change since we last reviewed that spreadsheet. I do need to there's a couple of historical commission projects that need to be closed out. But other than that, the spreadsheets and the information is accurate. Go on to the Robertson funded project updates. Robertson Trail Bridge have been meeting with town council and Mary Overholt, our administrator, and we're hoping to get the bid documents prepared soon. We have a draft of the bid documents that we've been reviewing. The goal would be to get those documents on the street, get a bid or two, and start construction in October. Got a good chance of doing that. Another update is the Pratt Mill Pond Management Plan. It's been awarded. The contract has been quite signed yet, but we intend to award it to TRC for $47,000, which is $3,000 less than the funded amount. There's progress there. I suspect that work will start this. TRC is the same contractor that did the actual field work for us a couple of years ago on in Milton. So with that, I think it's 7:05 almost. I think I can read the public hearing notice. Paul always used to suspend the meeting, and I guess I'll do that. And then look for a motion to suspend the regular meeting. Anyone wants to do that?
I make a motion to suspend tonight's meeting.
I second that.
A second, any discussion?
Second.
Hearing none, please vote. Aye, Mike.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye, Chris.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous vote. So I'll move on to reading the public hearing notice. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the Community Preservation Act that the Upton Community Preservation Committee will hold a public hearing on Thursday, April 10th, 2025 to consider the following request for funding from Community Preservation Act revenues. 705 to transfer $160,000 and 0 cents from the CPA Affordable Housing reserve account to the Upton Affordable Housing Trust, with such funds to be used in accordance with the CPA statute and guidelines for the construction of an affordable housing unit at 28 Hartford Ave North. All interested parties invited to participate. The meeting will take place at the Upton Town Hall, ground floor conference room, and remote via Microsoft Teams. Meeting materials are available on the committee's website. The information for remote participation will be available on the Town of Upton website. Mike Penko, Chair, Community Preservation Committee. So, thank you, Michael. Is there anyone here who would like to present this request for funding?
I'll chime in about it. Mike Antonellis, Director of Land Use and Inspectional Service. But we also have Hank Grouch on from Habitat. So these materials, I didn't circulate them again ahead of this meeting. They were circulated ahead of your last meeting where we had sort of the preliminary discussion about this funding request. So the affordable housing, but I'll just go over it briefly. If we want to get into specific questions, you know, that's great. The Affordable Housing Trust has been working with, well, they put out for an RFP about a year ago, maybe more, with regard to 28 Hartford Ave North. As we know, there is a dilapidated, decrepit single-family home, a small single-family home, probably I think no more than 900 square feet. That needs to be torn down, but B, because it's under the control of the housing trust, and the goals of the housing trust is to create affordable housing in the town. They'd obviously like to pursue engaging with a developer, or in this case, nonprofit, to replace what is there with a nice home that is, add to the community and provide for one unit of affordable housing on that property. And so the Habitat for Humanity being the only respondent to that RFP, we're delighted to work with them to, I guess, soon execute on a purchase and sale once we get through this end of things. But the RFP response or the update to it was circulated to the CPC. And in that, you can see the financials or the estimates really of, total new project cost is estimated for Habitat to get a single family home on there, and an affordable single family home that's completed by Habitat. It's going to cost around $500,000. And Habitat, through their processes and the way that they fund projects, 25 to 30% of that cost is borne by the municipality. And so again, I failed to have my calculator up and ready for that. But for the article, we had put on a $160,000 is the request that's current for the article before town meeting. So, that number, Hank, if you could comment on the finality of the numbers and things like that. I imagine we're not really going to know totally or exactly what that cost is until we're a little closer. Can you comment on that through the chair?
Yes.
Hank, you're muted if you're.
I've turned my mic on. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to build a 4-bedroom home. We've built the same floor plan in multiple locations in the past, so we're quite confident that we know what the construction costs are. There are, as you know, there's a bit of turmoil in the industry due to an unknown, undetermined tariff situation. But we given that the tariff situation doesn't get much worse than it was in the past, we should be able to handle it. So I think the quotes are good. We have a solid quote for the tear down of the existing home has to be done by a private contractor because it involves remediating hazardous materials. So, but we have a solid quote for that from a reliable company. And Habitat will raise funds in the community and from industrials and from grants and such, in addition to having the homeowner helping the homeowner get an appropriate first-time mortgage. Habitat, we understand I mean, our financial model is that we lose money on every house we build, and we make that up through donations from the community and from various grants.
And I just quickly did the calculation. So the reason why the ask before town meeting is 160,000 is because you know, the total project cost that's shown in the estimate from Habitat is $503,228. So that's it's rough. That's, you know, a round number is $150,000, but it's a little bit beyond $150,000. That just gives us a little bit of wiggle room. So I'll defer to the chair if there's questions.
Are there any questions about the project or comments from the committee?
No.
How about any members of the public who are attending?
Actually, Mike, I do have a question. Will this house and town's water and sewer?
I think the question is there town water and town sewer?
Right.
Yes.
Excellent.
Mike, I do have a question, just because I see a number of the neighbors here. If this does go through and does pass town meeting, Hank, when do you think that you'll be able to start? Do you need to have all the money raised before you start? Or
No,
will you be able to tear down that building pretty quickly?
we'll be able to start. We'll be able to start as soon as we can get regulatory approval. We part of the services we provide is we deal with the Executive Office of Housing and Development to make sure that the home will be included in your subsidized housing inventory. That usually takes somewhere between 3 and 4 months. We would expect to start work late summer, early fall on the project on the site.
So that means the building won't come down until you get the approval from livable housing and livable communities.
Yeah, we'll probably delay until we're able to do that. We may be able to start sooner, but usually we don't start construction until we have EOHLC acceptance.
Hank, are there any wetlands or streams in the area?
Excuse me, I didn't understand the
Are
question.
there any wetlands or streams in the area?
There are wetlands between the highway and the building. There's a vegetated wetland. There's a small stream that goes through there. And again, part of our work is to work with to do the filings with the Conservation
Okay.
Commission. And we
Excellent.
understand what we have to do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I have a question. Will the roof be able to support solar panels? And
yes.
if yes, would the owner be able to either install them themselves or have a lease to install solar panels?
I mean, we attempt to find a donor who will give us solar panels, and if we can find a donor, and we have in the past had pretty good success with a number of the solar companies, we'll put solar panels on the roof. It is an all-electric home. It'll be electric heat, and electric appliances.
So I believe with the new building code, I'm not positive. I'd have to ask double check inspector, and because it is all electric, I'm pretty sure new homes have to be rated for that in order to provide those things.
The framing and
Yeah. I'm not positive on that specific question, but that is how the code has been geared towards the last couple of years.
Yeah, our standard design meets the Massachusetts State Stretch Energy Code. It's quite energy efficient, heavily insulated, quite an effective, efficient home.
Are there any other questions from anyone?
Mike, could I just add a couple of comments? I'm representing in this, on these comments, the Affordable Housing Trust. I think it's, we're very excited about moving forward with Habitat for Humanity to be able to gain an affordable housing unit. And this will be the first affordable housing unit provided by the Affordable Housing Trust. So there'll be a lot to be learned through this project. But also, too, there's a great benefit that we will receive because of the house is in a very poor shape, as I think it was Mike had mentioned. The community, the neighborhood, I should say, has been very patient over the years because it has been uninhabited for many, many years, and it's in very rough shape. And it's an eyesore and possibly a public nuisance. So we're also excited about resolving that problem for the neighborhood and for the town. So it's a big win if we can move forward with this, because we'll gain that affordable housing unit and also solve a problem in that neighborhood.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
No.
If there are none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I motion to unclose the public hearing.
Is there a second? Okay, motions to close the hearing has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, voice vote. Mike, aye.
Krista, aye.
Kathy, I.
Brian, I.
Committee.
Rick, aye. Yep.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, that's a unanimous vote of the members present. So I think with that, thank you very much, Hank and Michael, for presenting the project. And
Thank you.
What we'll do is we'll go back to our regular meeting, and then one of the things we will do tonight is vote whether or not to support this article at town meeting, annual town meeting on May 1st.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So back to the regular meeting. We've talked about the currently funded projects, and the next agenda item is an update on the MURSD Athletic Fields project. Is there someone representing that project who would like to give us an update?
Hi, everyone. I can begin, and there are three of us here to answer questions or provide any information, but I'm Maureen Cohen. I'm the superintendent in Mendon Upton. So if I see a couple friendly faces there. Hey, Brian. But it's nice to be asked to be here and be able to answer questions and provide any additional information. I don't know if Bill and Nicole, if you want to introduce yourselves as well.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Mike. Bill Casey, president of MUCP.
And hello, I'm Nicole Casello. I'm the vice president of MUCP, which is the Mendon Upton Community Project.
And I don't know how much you're aware of the project that we have going forward, so I can give as much information as you want, and we can kind of walk you through all of it, or we could, if you know a lot about it, we can answer questions, whatever seems to be best to help you understand, or for us to answer questions for you too.
Yeah, we have discussed it once already.
Okay.
If you want to give a brief description with any updates, and just so committee members know, and we're planning on holding another meeting just to discuss this project right now, probably on April 28th. And that will be a joint remote meeting with the Mendon Community Preservation Committee. Been discussing this with Ann Mazar, the chair of that committee. And Ann especially would like to be able to make a kind of a general recommendation, I asked, to CPA funding, CPC funding for this project at the Mendon annual town meeting, and Upton may want to do the same. Because there is an article on the annual town meeting warrant about I think the larger school project that is being planned concludes replacing the roof and other elements. So anyway, Ann would like to be able to potentially indicate how much support the Mendon CPC would be willing to provide, and Upton may wish to do the same. And we thought the best way to do that would be this joint meeting. And also give it's in several weeks, so it'll give proponents a little bit more time to flush out some more of the details. I know this is kind of a moving target, but with that, if you could maybe give us a brief what you're proposing and any updates you'd like to share.
Sure. Is there a way for us to present through Teams here? Like if I click share, would it allow me to do so? I'm not familiar with Teams so much.
There should be a.
Yep. Yeah, you should be able to do it. I don't think it's locked or anything.
All right, so if I hit share, I'll give it a whirl. Screen window tab. Okay, I'm gonna say.
If you have multiple screens, Maureen, it'll let you choose which screen.
I only have one here right now.
Okay.
See if I'm able to do it. Entire screen. All right. Give me 1 second. Are you able to see it?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. We need permission to share your screen. Go to security and privacy to give permission. It might not work.
Is
All
this
right.
the same slideshow Bill showed at the last meeting, or is this a different
I
one?
Different.
It's updated, but I was gonna just pull out a couple of the slides, just to, it's easier to talk, kind of show you, but if I can't do it, then we can talk through it. It's totally fine. All right.
Can I make one suggestion? Could you try, one of you, could you email the presentation to Mike Antonellis? And he could probably,
All right, I can do that right now. It's also on our website too. But I will do it right now. Presentation, thank you. Sometimes it's just, we did update a few things, so it's just easier to show it when we talk. All right, I just hit send on that. And then
Also said it was on the website.
Oh yeah, it is actually. I can see.
Or is that actually might be easier for me to pull it up on the website. What's the website?
Yep, it's mursd.org. And then when you're on that home page, you'll see the button that's one over that says Capital Project.
mursd.org.
Yep.
Oh, there it is. I had to scroll down.
Yep. And then there's buttons across, and then one button will say Capital Project.
Mike, depending on where you are, I have it in one click. I can make Maureen a presenter.
Okay. Hold on. I have a solution.
It's Maureen. If you try now, you should be a presenter.
Oh, this,
Oh, we got it.
if
Yeah,
this is where I am.
yeah, that's fine. If you scroll, yeah, if you scroll down,
Yeah.
yep, all the way down. And this is good because I usually like to show everyone where you can get the info. So keep going. And then keep going. That's like the main overview. It says capital project presentation. If you click that plus sign, yep, click into there. Right there is the presentation, and you can flip through if you don't mind. And when you've
Oh, you know what, Maureen? Let me see if I can share. I probably will do the same thing for me, but can you see my screen?
Oh,
I see somebody's, yep,
Is that it?
my,
yep.
oh,
Who is that? Is that you, Nicole?
Yeah, I didn't know if
Yeah,
you're able to get it, otherwise I can
Yeah,
prop through.
if you have it, I think that's perfect. If you want to just flip through, just go fast and just jump into the fields section. But actually does that. Just a reminder, we have 3 articles that are coming to both towns. And this is an updated presentation that goes over everything. But we have the roof project, facilities project, and we're talking tonight about the Fields and Grounds project. And the Fields and Grounds project is at Nipmuc Regional, in the front field and the back field, and we'll do an overview for you just with highlights. And then also Miskell Hill Middle School is also part of our overall project. So if you could just flip through, Nicole, to the field section. Thank you. There's a lot of info in our overarching presentation.
Here we go.
Okay. So what we like to do to orient people to what the project is we have work that we're looking to do at one whole field that impacts Misco. And then we have the backfields and front fields at Nipmuc, which in the backfields at Nipmuc, we'll be talking about an accessible walking path, upgrading the baseball, softball practice and field hockey fields, putting in irrigation systems, and then the front field, and we'll show you pictures of this, just a reminder for everyone, it's the installation of a track, ADA compliant entrance, permanent lighting, turf playing field, and then press box seating concessions. So if you go to the next slide. This is an overview of the Fields and Grounds. And when you're looking right here, it's almost 3 different angles. When you're facing forward, you can see we're in the left field of the baseball field at Misco. And then you can look across at the softball field. You can see that the state of the grass right there, we do not have an irrigation system here, and it's very highly compacted. And we'd be looking to redo and regrade and put an irrigation system here. Bill, do you want to add anything to this? I'll do the intro and you can give the finer details just to let them know.
In the middle picture, in the bottom right is the picture that's we call the multi-purpose field. That's the field that's shared between the softball and baseball field there, that's used for gym class every day. It's used for field hockey. It's used for tackle football. It's used for touch football, as well as the baseball and softball and cross country. So there's a lot of use on grass fields, a lot of compaction, and right now no irrigation system.
Yep. All right. Thank you. And then we can go to the next slide. I'll go over a general overview of some of the issues that we're facing across all the fields at Nipmuc, and then we will show you specific areas. We had some drone footage done, so we have some follow-up images that give you a better sense of all of the fields that we have and what would be impacted. But we have similar issues with uneven terrain and divots and holes. Lots of safety issues for athletes and spectators. And actually recently, I was talking to a number of student athletes and hearing kind of specific stories of people getting injured on the front field and pulling ACL, or in field hockey games at Miska with the ball coming up with the divots and how unsafe it is, just to give you a sense of some of the problems the students have been facing. One thing that we really like to point out, and I wasn't at when Bill met with you before, so I don't know what he had shared, but when you see that image on the right that's all flooded, I'm greatly concerned with the lack of accessibility for all of our community members heading out to some of these field areas as well, for emergency vehicles, but also for just use or just anyone with any mobility issues. And we would be part of the project that we're proposing is paving part of a section in order to have better access to these areas, and that would be one of the areas as well. Something we talked about is lighting. We don't have, it's unusual actually as a high school that we don't have any lighting to be able to extend any of the community use and utilization of our fields past whenever it's dark out. We have 1 week that we have like a week of the lights, and we rent out, and community groups have, youth groups have rented out lights, and we brought in like thousands of people in this 1 week. And what we're hoping with part of this project is we're building a whole community feel where we would be able to have that every week and many nights, and be able to have all of, some youth groups coming in and other community members come in and use it after hours as well. So the lighting would be put in the front field. A lot of people don't know that even though we have a track team, we don't have a track for the track team. So our students have to run in the roads. They run their hurdles in the middle of the cafeteria. They are running in our hallways, and any of their meets they have to host elsewhere. If we had a track, some of the community use, we'd be able to have community members as well coming over and using that. And in the town that I live, we're down there all the time using the walking paths that they have and using the track, which is part of our project proposal here. In the back, and we'll show this in a minute, our softball field would be reoriented and turned, because right now it's a little too short and it has some dangerous kind of drop-offs on some of it. And then in baseball, we would also move it and regrade it. Anything you want to add to this slide, Bill, before I move on, or Nicole?
No.
Okay, we'll jump to the next slide, just to give you more details. So this is some of the details. You can see, actually, Bill, I'll have you talk about the front, because we were at Mendon Select Board last night. So this is our second rodeo of the week on this one. You can explain this one like you did last night.
Yep. So this one here, as the drone footage, helped us out a lot. If you can see the distinct white line up the center of the field, that's basically the creases in the center of the lacrosse goal for boys, the lacrosse goal for girls, and the goal mouth for soccer. And that area gets completely beat, and it's tough to keep that up, aerated, loose the compaction, and reseed it because it's constantly being used. So the seed's not taken, it doesn't have a long enough time to germinate and establish itself. And a couple of the other, up the top of the screen by the school, you'll see some of the problems with some of the irrigation that's on it. It's, some of the heads are outdated, they're gonna be updated. The lines are clogged, so they're not springing as far as they should. So it's making a circular motion.
Did he just freeze?
Oh, I might have.
I'm back. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, you're back.
This is the one that we had talked about prior, and to the top edge of the screen is where you would walk in, almost where the arrows coming down is where you would walk in. But as we talked about, to the far left into the deep woods, we have restrictions with wetlands. So the field will shift a little bit, but by doing that, it's going to take the bleachers from the left side of the field now over to the street side. So that's where we'd be, we'd have a nice ADA path coming in from the entrance and coming right all the way to the side. It would have to be built up and then, right over to a press box sort of like one of our communities, Grafton has that, where the press box is at the top level and the bleachers go down. So ADA is perfect. There's great viewing and it's easy access to get to. So that's what we're hoping to get to.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, want to go to the next slide. When you take a look at these fields, in the upper left is where the baseball field, the bottom portion is the softball field, and then we have other soccer and like practice fields used kind of the outfields on both. You can see I always like to talk about the backstop at the baseball field and how far away it is from the main field, and how part of the project would be moving it back and closer to that backstop. And the softball would be shifted and moved a little bit to the right and pulled back a little bit because right there, when it's where you're pointing, it's too, regulation wise, it's too short for a softball field. It's not long enough there. I'll hand it over to you, Bill, to add anything else, any other details that we should know with what we'd be doing.
Oh, I think you froze again.
The baseball field, the softball field be aligned, say, kicking it to the right, and making that an equal 200 foot going around the whole field. Well, right now it's 200, and then it breaks down to left field. It breaks down to 172, 175. So it's not long enough. These are and youth sports. As you can see, the center of the field is pretty much torn up. The irrigation we had out there hasn't been working so well. The school has put in a deep well out there because there was shallow wells. So we've already invested in put deep wells out there. So now it's a matter of, replacing the 27-year-old irrigation and getting the proper coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Those two fields.
Yeah. And then if you go to the next slide, one thing I like about this new visual that we have is you can see all of our fields. And when we go to the plans, I like how you can visualize it, that all the edges of these fields would be the walking path that we would be put in. So you'd have access for vehicles to be able to, go and work on the fields, but also would be a community walking path. And I think, Nicole, you said you're trying to get it to be about like a mile.
It's about a mile, yeah.
About a mile, right? But what's nice here is you can actually see all of it and where it would go around. So if you go to the next slide, it leads into the plans, I think, or it might be the football one on the next one. Oh no, the plan's good. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's in the plans?
Me?
Yeah, or one of you.
Okay, sure. So this sort of just shows that front field that we were talking about with the track around it. It's got the blue line here is what's represented for the walking path, which is plus or minus about a mile. We've got the aluminum bleachers and press box that Bill was talking about right off of Pleasant Street. We have a few additional parking spaces here along the entrance, which would help with some of the handicap parking. This is that paved area that Maureen was talking about where it always gets flooded. So we would have that for accessibility. And it just shows you a bit here that we're taking that, that's the baseball field, and sort of just reorienting it towards the right, towards the tree. So that'll give that long distance in the outfield there. I think, Bill, anything else to add on that?
I don't know if we talked about the adding of some of the facilities. I think if you go to the next slide, sometimes, or no, I guess I feel like it's
one.
Oh yeah, the fields and grounds one. Yeah, the Nipmuc. We add this. Sometimes there's confusion. People think this is only about football, and it's not. You can see we're really trying to tackle all of our sports and all of our fields. But one thing that some people just might not know is when Nipmuc was built, we didn't have a football team. So when that front field was built, it wasn't built for a football team, but now we have one. And we also didn't have some other sports that we've expanded over the years and increased usage on the front field. field, but you can see that the need for like a press box and some of the other requirements that you would have when you have larger games like a football game or lacrosse games as well. So we just like to point out what we're working with right now and just let people know about when Nipmuc was built, kind of the differences in how we've grown over time. And then if you can fast forward through just this is like the high level overview of the cost estimates, but on the actual web page, like if once we jump out of this on the web page, I have like the smaller breakdown of subsections in the
You want me to go to the
rounds.
website?
Yeah, I think if you just get back to the website, you could click into, if you scroll up a little bit, just, and it says,
Here?
yep.
Oops.
And then you can, let's see how it shows up in the presentation. Yeah, if we keep going. You have to go over to the fields. The field link, it has all the breakdown. Sorry.
Where's the field link? This one?
On the left, all the way on the left. Go up, sorry. I probably should have done this.
That's okay.
Yep, and then go to Fields and Grounds project.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, and then go to that page. And then on the bottom, there'll be a link to and that's the more specific, and there are more pictures that I put in there too, if anyone wanted to see.
All the way at the bottom, cost estimate.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so on the left-hand side is kind of what's in the presentation. It's more the high level, but on the right-hand side, it breaks it down a little bit more. And I know some questions have come up, as we've been working through this process and getting more information of what different aspects cost, and it's broken down here if anyone's looking for that as well. So we'll pause there. That is the overview, but gives you a sense of the numerous aspects of the projects that we're proposing.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from the CPC committee?
Brian, you're muted.
So thank you for the presentation, a lot of information there. If you could, do you have an estimate or maybe numbers actually known? I sense that maybe we have not provided for the fields over our history of especially Misco. That was the original Nipmuc High School. And I remember playing on that field that was in the middle. Mm-hmm. So I'm dating myself there. And it was pretty green back then, but that was a long time ago. So my sense in looking at that, there's probably not much investment that has been, or if any, over the last, that's probably 70 years that school's been there. And then in Nipmuc, I was surprised to see, and it's eye-opening that school is that old. I still think of it as a new school. But I think you said it was 27, 28 years.
Yeah,
so that was hard to believe. So it'd be helpful to know if everything needs maintenance. So if we could maybe understand how much has been put into the fields in the past, and maybe that helps us understand, at least for me it would, is that if we have not put in much money over the years to maintain our fields, it's a bill that we have delayed maybe, and now it's coming due, as much as we don't like it. The other thing is, I think it would be helpful to know how many students, and it's probably on there, my apologies for not going to the site, probably defines all the students that are involved in sports. And I'll look for that. So, but if it's not there, that would be helpful, I think, to know too. And because sports are a big part of the curriculum. So I think that's great. And then the last thing is, I'm glad you emphasized, Maureen, that we have a track team. And I just personally like track because it opens, everyone can be on track. So regardless of your level of capabilities in sports and your athleticism, everyone can be on the track team. So I personally like that. And it is amazing that we have had a track team for all these decades and never have had a track and have performed at a very high level. So it's a credit to all those athletes. So I'm glad you pointed that out, that we don't have a track team. And I think it's due that we need a track.
Mhm.
So those are
Thank
just some comments.
No, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the comment. I'll go kind of backwards, like on the track. What I'm finding as we do the presentations is sometimes we may assume that some people don't, have some information, but they don't know. And every time we get a question, it's been really helpful at all the different groups we've been presenting to, because we could just continue to present, because then we can add that into the next presentation to provide clarity so people know. And when I was able to talk to the students about, I said, where do you practice? And they're talking about hurdles, but not the full hurdles in the middle of the calf. It's not really the safest, the best, approach. And we do, the best that we can. So thank you on that. For the how many students involved in sports, we do not have that posted. So I have that information. I can get that to John and Marianne, the co-principals. I'll get the exact information. But we're a smaller school at the high school for enrollment, but typically it's been more than half of our students are involved in some sort of sport when I've heard the numbers in the past, but I can get that info from our athletic director. And also just to point out, because this came up in the meeting last night when we were talking about MISCO, is even though we talk a lot about, we book that for community groups all the time and youth sports, and also, our teams, we have a few MISCO teams, but also we use that for all of our PE classes as well. So it's actually used the whole time. And then leading to the question of how much has been put into the fields, and I'll turn to Bill to help talk about this in a second, because I know Bill Casey's been supporting us in trying to improve and increase our investments in maintenance of the fields, and he's been really, his expertise has been helping us a lot. The lack of irrigation, I'll begin at MISCO, it has been one of the biggest issues with being able to maintain it. And it's just, there's so much overuse in that one backfield that is used by many that it's compacted over the years. And I know at one point they tried to make it, kind of even. Years ago, I hear a story of, an external group coming in and, using something to flatten it out, but it's so compacted that we have to actually redo all of it. But the fact that we didn't have irrigation is a big issue there. And if we did get an earmark, the representatives in Mendon got an earmark for irrigation for 30,000. It might be able to reduce some of our cost over there, but it wouldn't be enough. We would need more. So that's one thing I can speak to there. We've been working with Bill to try to put in are you able to speak to some of the upgrades that we've done in the last couple of years since I've come here, and we're trying to invest more into the maintenance of some of the fields? Do you mind?
Yep, no problem.
Yeah.
So recently they have, gotten into a 5-step fertilizer program, pushing the growth of the grass at the proper times. The watering, the front field, they put in a deep well irrigation in the front field to get that, better coverage. The hopes is to, tap off that and use that around the front field, and, how far up we can stretch that, in the future. The backfield, they invested and put a deep well irrigation in out there, for the cost of, I think it was $45,000 to put the deep well in out back. And now we just need to come up and hook the current irrigation up to it. Problem is when they did hook some of it up to it, it's, old pipes that are there, so they'll break, the valves are breaking, they're letting go. So the time and money that they're spending on just trying to fix the valve, it's gonna, be wasted money if we don't do the whole system. With the whole system, it's now with a deeper well with more pressure, not a shallow well. If you can imagine the drought we had a couple of years ago in the summer, those fields are like playing on asphalt when the students got there in the fall. So they've done that. Their fertilizer program is up and running. They are slice seeding in the off season, as soon as the season ends. They've been doing that, as well as, upkeeps on their painting their dugouts, community helping paint the dugouts and keeping the upgrades around there. One comparison, just talking back to Brian, when Brian was speaking of, money that's been spent and this and that. So one clarification we could do is Blackstone Valley across the street in the past 10 years has resodded the middle of their field twice to almost $1 million. And if you go by it now, it looks like it needs to be done again. It's just, there are so many people playing sports now, and a lot of these schools, like lacrosse wasn't a big thing back then. Football's a big thing now. So they're never rested. So when you used to be able to seed something and stay off it for a season, a growing season for 3 months, you just don't have that time anymore. That time is the winter, and it doesn't grow in the winter, as we all know. So everything they're doing is right. They're going the right way. They're putting in the right effort. It's just the amount and the volume of people that want to use the fields.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And maybe the other comment to Bill's piece is the second worst time to try to grow grass is in the middle of the summer, right?
Exactly.
So yes, school's out, but 95-degree days, you're really not growing grass then either. It's not a growing point.
So we've been, definitely working. Bill's been helpful. MUCP's been helpful in us, trying to strategize about ways that we can do these smaller investments to keep improving what we have now, because, it takes time in order to, get to this larger project. But we do think that bringing in, the new irrigation, and we would need to put a little bit more money into our, we were talking to Bill recently about like how much would we need additional in our budget in order to offset some of the maintenance and to keep it up. So we're working on those numbers. But on the flip side, we'd be able to actually bring in additional revenue that could support some of that work by ticket sales increasing and being able to host events and hosting MIA events, but also being able to charge fees for some of our facility use, potentially to our field use as well. So that could come in and then help support some of the maintenance. And so that's part of the long-term plan.
Yeah. So I guess, sorry, Mike, I was just going to say, so a couple of good additions since the last time I think I've seen it as well. So, is there still a plan to try to, a different plan on how you chunk this down? Because obviously can't get all, can't be done all at once. So are there phases in terms of how you envision this would need to roll?
Do you want to answer that, Bill? We talked about that last night.
So we would start with the front field with the track and the lights, and the time frame for that would be after one of the fall seasons. So when the fall season concludes and the 4 or 5 sports that play out there, or 4 or 5 teams that play out there in the fall, and then construction can work. A lot of it can work through the winter and what needs to be done for the layout and this and that. And then the spring season would be the least of, finding a place for teams to go. So we have 2 lacrosse teams, boys and girls, that we probably have to pay, to use Northbridge's field for their games that season. And then that gives them, from the fall all the way through spring and summer to get it ready for the following fall to be playable. And then as that goes on, then we can start, realigning softball field, creating the walking path around, because the walking path around is going to be a maintenance path, walking path. So if something needs to get down there, it just stays right on the path. It no longer has to drive over a field and, possibly break a main line for the irrigation and, cause them more damage that way. So we have it on the path. And one of the things they brought up last night is, why are we that path, just running some conduit down the back for future years if something was ever to be approved for, if everyone to light a softball or a baseball field or something like that, that the actual conduit is in place around the path. So as you're digging it up, it would be a small expense to do that, but it would save a huge amount if we ever tried to do that later on.
Yep. And Misco stuff? Is that third?
Mm,
So in terms of in the order,
Yeah, just, I mean, in terms of order and need, right? I mean,
yep. So on Misco's side, so the one big thing at Misco is Misco, a lot of Misco is going to have to be sodded because of, you're not going to have that shutdown growing season between school ending and school starting with the spring sports because there's no other fields for people to go there. So a lot of that will be, the baseball field would be redone, softball field would be, regraded, this and that, and then sod in between with the irrigation and, have it playable for the fall or spring, whichever season it was done in.
Rick, are you all set? I have a couple questions I want to ask.
yeah, go ahead, Mike. I might have others, but if you see smoke
Okay.
coming out, it's because I'm thinking of them.
Okay. I wrote down a few questions while you were doing the presentation. Very nice presentation. I think answered a lot of questions. I have one question about the public use, about the path, the walking path. Public use of that path, will it be restricted in any way when school is in session? And also kind of related to that, will there be some dedicated parking spaces for the public? I mean, I'm sure everyone knows how premium parking is at the high school. And if somebody wanted to park near that path and take a walk, would they be able to do that? And what, in terms of during the school hours, would public use be restricted, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think, and I'm always open to changing my mind on things, so we'll begin with that. But because security is such a focus of us, the first thing I think is we tend not to invite people like during the school hours when we're in school, because we always have to keep track of like perimeter and like security and people. Now, I don't know if there's like back access. I'm not as familiar, like that, how you have like the woods off the back and there's some paths. Like it probably would never be an issue. I'm guessing like if you were walking in that back part, it's nowhere near the school. There's, I'm sure people probably do it now, even without like a walking path. But we do try to keep people away. We don't want people like walking dogs like right up by the school or people coming in during those school hours. But I'm open to, hearing what other school districts do when they have a path like this. But I live in Grafton, and so I used to work at the high school, and we built that high school when I was here, and then I came over to Mendon Upton, and there is kind of like a loose walking path around the edge of all the fields. And so if someone was ever walking kind of far out and no kids are out on the school grounds at times, like it would never be brought ever an issue or concern. It would be more if you had people kind of near students and near the school. So we would have to have like good signage when we have the path up there, so it would be clear for the public to know like hours and when you can do that. But most people, once the school day is over in those like 6.5 hours, so before school or after school, people are walking on the track at that high school, they're walking the paths, and that would be open. It's really just kind of in that school hour band. I think there might be the only time that we might need to have the restrictions in certain parts. So I don't know if that answers it, but.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah.
It's important, I think, that there is some general public use like that proposed if CPA funds are going to be used.
To touch on that real, front, I think the track would be open, especially when events aren't on, sort of like BVT is now. So right now it's locked down because of basically overuse. So they'll lock the front gate now, but that would be open with it being a track.
Mm-hmm. And also I would probably ask, just like the new chief, like I would ask him like, what do you think is the right thing to do, for access and security in our perimeter, because we've been really working hard on increasing our like security, from outward into our schools. So I would ask him what he thinks too and get advice on that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I had a question about irrigation, but that was answered. Thank you pretty much. Question, planning board, will the Upton Planning Board need to approve, any approvals for the field, for the lighting, the new lighting, things like that? I have been around longer than I want to think about too. And I remember when the field was being permitted, there were quite a few butters at Conservation Commission hearings, who had concerns about, use of the field, things like that. And I suspect you might have some butters concerned about the artificial lighting. But Michael, do you planning board approvals for lighting and
Possibly. It's not, lighting itself is not a trigger for review for the planning board. But if I'd have to look back if there was even a site plan approval for the school and the fields when they were originally done. I have no idea if there are or not right now. If there was, and there was, conditions placed on those approvals that adding new lighting somehow conflicted with, then yeah, the planning would probably have to revisit it. And so, but either way, it'd be, regardless, even if it did have to go to a planning board, it would be minor.
Yeah, and Mike, the parking, there was mention earlier, parking too, and that could trigger a planning board review.
Yeah, it's 10, exactly, yeah, 10 or more parking spaces, typically for trails and stuff, you're not adding that many, but possibly.
Okay. That hasn't come up in our conversation. So again, like I'm really glad that you just mentioned that, because that's more information that I'll want to know and be able to be prepared to get the information we need or provide what we would need as we go through the process. So thank you for bringing that up.
I mean, it'd be helpful through the chair is to talk about lighting. I mean, it'd be helpful when you're getting these plans done to work with an engineer who has experience with lighting and can do photometric plans and can understand and present on the impacts of any proposed lighting. So you can be confident that what you're proposing isn't going to create an issue if there's concern that there will be an issue.
Excellent.
Yeah, on lighting, that would be really helpful. I mean, there are environmental concerns related to artificial light. It's called Allen artificial light at night, if you probably aware of that, but things like the color of lighting, try to stay away from blue light end of the spectrum as much as possible, working more towards the orange and red. Be able to turn off the lighting when it's not being used to minimize impacts to wildlife and vertebrates, especially that are attracted to these lights, things like that. It may be the Conservation Commission, they may have some concerns. I'm on the commission with the commission may have some concerns about that. So it would be good to start thinking about those things sooner rather than later. Being able to again, work towards the orange, red end of the spectrum as much as possible, be able to turn off the lights, being able to have the intensity of the lights basically at the low end of what you really need, not at the high end, be able to manipulate that light intensity to some degree, things like that. And then the other question I just had is, I may have been on your spreadsheet which you showed, but as I'm sure you know, turf itself can't be paid for by CPA. What is your estimated cost of the actual turf? The project is around 12 million. How much is the actual turf project?
The turf infill shock pad material and labor is listed as 1,100,000 in this here.
Okay.
So that's
Thank you.
And it's about a little under 10% of the overall cost is the actual turf.
Thanks.
Yep.
And then the one last question is just schedule in general. I mean, if you get your funding, probably at the fall town meeting, when would you expect to start construction and be and have construction complete of all phases of this project?
Nicole, do you want to speak to that or just from?
Yeah, I think,
project management?
yeah, I actually don't, we hadn't vetted out the entire process, but I think it would definitely be in multiple phases, something we can look at more closely for you. But I do think, starting with the first phase at the front Nipmuc field, like Bill had said, it would probably be at least a few months for them to, after it's been awarded, for them to get through design. And we do plan to have an engineer as part of that design development phase. So an engineer would be looking at the lighting and such. So I would say a few months for the design and then probably at least a year to a year and a half for construction. We need to know a little bit more about the cut and fill analysis that will have to happen and what's going on with the grounds and the infrastructure. So once we get a little more information, we'll have a better idea. But I would say typically between a year and a half for that development of the front field. Would you agree, Bill, or closer to a year?
Yes, it all depends on once the funds are available, it's got to go to design teams. It's got to go to, EP, conservation, plan, and there's a lot of steps that it has to go through to get to it.
I think that's a great point. We want to make sure we hit all the approvals, so that 4 to 6 month time period where we're developing the design, we'll want to make sure that we get those approvals in as well before we start construction. So my best estimate is about a year to a year and a half. And that's what Bill was talking about. Our goal would be to try to get back into the fall and have minimal impact on the students and the sports team out in that front field. So.
And just to know, if you're unaware, we did form a building committee in order to, and we have different representatives around on the committee. And one is actually someone who builds schools and fields, did a bunch of turf fields, and he's been really helpful. But it's been nice to have a representative group. And once we, if we're able to move forward, we have a lot of expertise around the table to help, work through the process, which has been nice.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the committee, or I'm not sure if there's anyone from the public on who would like to ask a question or make a comment at this point. The committee, any questions? Any further questions?
Brian.
For my clarification, it's learned a lot tonight. I think that was the intent, to inform us. What is the plan for funding this? In our role, as I know, in a week or two, Mike had mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we're having a joint meeting with the Mendon CPC. So is there a ideal funding path that you're seeking, and how much would go to the town for, I guess, an override? I don't want to put, I'm sorry if I put words in your mouth. And how much would you be looking for from the CPCs and any other type of funding sources? And I don't know if you have that figured out quite yet.
I think some is still in progress, but I can, tell you we have in the, the warrant article is for that full amount that's listed, so you can see, what we're going for, for the project. For the CPC, I like how both of you are going to meet. And because I know when we were talking to Mendon, they were saying it might be helpful in order to kind of, collaborate and be able to identify the parts that you felt and kind of be in line with one another, for what you might want to support. And just know that once from the MUCP realm and the work they're doing for fundraising, once it's ever approved, that triggers MUCP to also go out and get additional, on top of whatever CPC might be able to do, fundraising in order to defray the cost. Whatever we can do to reduce the impact on the taxpayers is our goal. We know we have the estimates in there. We know it's gonna, well, we're hoping everything's gonna keep coming down, for our costs for this, but our goal is to reduce it as much as we can. So there's minimal, impact on the taxpayer. And just, I didn't mention it, just so I think it's important people to know, on our website, we do have a tax impact calculator, and you can do it for the roof project or in the town. You can do it for just facilities. You can do it for the fields. You can do it for all of it, and you're able to see what it might be. But the goal would be to eventually reduce that through these other efforts. Any CPC funds that come forward, you're never going to be able to cover the cost of what this is, unfortunately, but anything that you can help out is going to, reduce the burden for the members of the community. So whatever you think is appropriate, or a way to go about committing that. I know it's something that's done annually, leave it in your hands, but I just want to be clear on our goal, because we've had that question too of cost and projects, and we want to bring it down as much as we can. That's our goal and this going forward is, a debt exclusion request as well. So people understand that if they don't know.
Thank you.
We also have a couple questions have come up, and this is just for anyone who might watch this, or for any of you, a number of information sessions that we're doing on the whole project. Next Thursday, I'm going to host something at Nipmuc in the upstairs PDC. It'll be also, over Zoom, so people will be able to see it or, watch it after, but it's an open information session. I'll run through the whole presentation again. We did just do the whole presentation at Mendon Select Board last night, so that someone can look that up as well. We've done it at a school committee meeting. And then after the break, so on the 28th, we'll have a hearing right before school committee that people can come, thank you, perfect, ask questions. And then that following Tuesday on the 29th, I'll do a Zoom webinar, so it won't be hybrid. And, I'll just continue to present, answer any questions people might have. So those are some that we've targeted, just to know for, other than the smaller groups that we're presenting to, that we're opening this up for people to get the information in advance of the town meetings, because at the town meeting, we'll do a quick overview, but it will be brief.
Thank you. Just looking at your schedule, April 28th will be a problem if the two CPC committees hold a meeting on that day. Yeah, I see you have another the school committee hearing scheduled then.
What time do you normally, because we have school committee at 7, so scheduled already, which is why we scheduled this like right before our school committee meeting.
You have to, get with Ann.
Okay.
If the two meetings were taking place at the same time, would you have bandwidth to have somebody present available at both meetings?
I mean, potentially, I don't know if, Bill and Nicole would be available for CPC meeting, because I'd have to be at the school committee meeting. But
28th is a Monday.
That's some thought.
Yeah.
28th does work best for CPC meeting, CPC members who have been told about that. The other option was first, and that wasn't a good day for some people, including Mr. Byer from Mendon. He preferred 28th.
Okay.
Maybe just,
I don't know if, can you do them anything a little bit earlier? If it was before, and if it was by Zoom, we could just be over at Nipmuc. We could Zoom in, we focused in, and then those of us that had to jump out for the meeting, we could do that. That's another option if you're able to do it like at 5:30 or.
Yeah, I'll mention it to Ann for Mendon and see 5:30 something.
Yeah. And
it might actually help you to know what the CPC committee's position is before you go to your other meeting. So
yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
We'll shoot for say 5 o'clock and see if that works.
Sounds good.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions? If not, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Thank you very much. Please don't hesitate to reach out though if questions come up. We're happy to answer them as best as we're able to.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. So the next agenda item, I want to briefly talk about the Matchy property. That's the property off North Street and Fay Mountain Road that open spaces working with SVT. We do now have an appraisal. It just came in last week. The value of the around 60 acres, which was assessed in the appraisal, is $264,000. Bill Taylor has provided that information to the owners, and they're kind of thinking it over. We also have a value for the CR, which I believe is around $120,000. So one option would be for the town to buy the land, and that would be around $264,000, or to just purchase a CR, and that would be around $120,000. But like I said, Bill and Tony from SVT are talking with the owners, and to be determined if these numbers are acceptable to the owners now.
Two questions. One is that the property that's kind of landlocked off of North Street?
It is, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
One of the options is includes a trail from Fay Mountain Road, and then the property is on the east side is Forest Heights, which is town of Upton land.
Yeah.
So it's landlocked, but right now the property does abut town-owned land.
There was a question if it was accessible from Grafton, correct?
Right, and that's the appraisal included one alternative that had a trail easement going from Fay Mountain Road and Grafton into the property.
Okay. And
Backland.
if the town purchases a CR, doesn't that mean that the owners would continue to own it and pay taxes on it? So they would have to approve that, correct?
They probably keep it
Have they indicated they would be interested in that?
in the CR.
Yeah.
I think they have, but they haven't committed to either alternative at this point. Because Bill and Tony have provided them the appraisal to them, and they're mulling it over, according to Bill. The appraisal was just available last week. So,
okay.
I don't really know where this is headed, but I just want to give you an update where it was right now. Any comments there, Brian? Did you have a comment on this?
No.
All right. And if you like, maybe we can get Bill Taylor here at another meeting. It might be perhaps in June or so. May, maybe he'll know more and he can fill everybody in. The CPA plan, still looking for comments on that. I'm working on about a 3-page policies and procedures to include in the plan, which would basically just, if somebody is brand new to CPC, 2 or 3 pages, this is what our policy is on different procedures, things that we need to, keep in mind. If there's a new chair, it'll help a new chair out a little bit. So look for that in the next few weeks. But still looking for comments if anybody wants to take a look at it and comment on it. And the last thing to do tonight is to
Mike, sorry, on the CPA plan, just the plan for the plan originally was to advertise for the public hearing for formal adoption at the May meeting. So I wanted to mention that.
Hopefully we can still make it, well, you think we could,
Whatever you
think we could go into June if we needed to?
I'm sure we have. Sure.
Okay. We might. We can talk about that in April, yeah, our meeting later in April.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
There's a reason we can't do that. And the last thing is to go back to the public hearing we just had a little while ago concerning Hartford Ave property, 28 Hartford. It's like to open for discussion on that. Is there any comments people have on that? If none, we would entertain a motion to support that article at town meeting. I mean,
I would like to move that we support the purchase of, or the allocation of $160,000 in CPA funds towards the purchase of the Hartford Avenue North property.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
So seconded by Rick. Any discussion?
Mike, is the wording, Kathy, is it, I don't think it's purchase, right? We want to fund, because we already
Yes,
own it now, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So I will entertain a friendly amendment to.
Yeah,
to the-
I think you had initially said purchase, but then you adjusted it to an allocation, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I think said allocated towards the purchase, but, allocate towards the development or.
I second that.
So I think Rick might, maybe I'll already seconded the motion, Chris, so. But any discussion, any further discussion on the motion as amended?
No.
Hearing none,
I don't have any.
Russ has none.
Actually, just to revise, just to go back to Brian's comment, I probably should be more specific about what we're looking for. We're looking to allocate, and I'm staring at you, Brian. We're looking to allocate $160,000 to Habitat for Humanity for the town's portion of the development of, what is the number again? 38 Hartford Avenue?
28.
20, yeah, for affordable housing. Does that work, Brian?
It does. Can I ask a question now? I don't know the right form of, can I ask a question, Mike, or is that a motion?
That was, I think that was.
Yeah, just amending the word into the motion.
That's
Yeah.
amend the motion slightly.
The only
yeah.
thing I throw out to consider is this is $160,000. That is what they're asking for. They're also asking us to waive fees. We estimated those to be $18,000. And in that 25 to 30% that they're looking for from the town of Upton, which is that potentially 125 to 150, would include the $18,000. So there's potentially what we're giving them is 178 in either dollars or waived fees. So,
But the item on the agenda for town meeting is allocating 160, correct?
And our hearing was 162, which is closed.
Yeah. I mean, there are the other costs, but this is specific to what's appearing on the warrant for town meeting.
Okay.
Which is the 160.
And I guess, Mike, maybe the purchase and sale still, is that still going through back and forth? Maybe we could state that that is included in the waiving of the fees, so it's not incremental. I mean, that's just my viewpoint. And I'm not sure if the AHT, I could not attend the last meeting.
I think the question, Brian, and I think it came up at the last meeting, was until the money is appropriated, there is no contract,
Correct.
you know? So it's not, there's nothing to sign until the money is made available.
All right. So I guess it'd be on the AHT. It's for the rest of the committee to say, but my view would be is to, when we're negotiating that, once we get the funding, that we've already covered those incremental, or those town fees through this $160,000. That's my opinion. And not to give them another additional 18,000. I think that's an AHT discussion, Mike. Sorry to cause some confusion
That's
You-
all right.
You're gonna be limited to the 160,000 anyway, right? Because that's the funding request through the CPC.
Yeah.
And you can negotiate that in this conversation for AHT, but we can negotiate that value of approximately $18,000 above and beyond this funding amount. So
Mhm.
more discussion to be had for sure.
Okay. So I'm good with the motion that Kathy had laid out.
Okay, and I think just for the heck of it, it's still seconded by somebody. Rick?
I'll second it if it wasn't.
Rick is seconded it, so you have a motion seconded, and it'll be fun trying to write that out when I do the minutes. So if no further discussion, voice vote, please. Mike, aye.
Chris, I.
Kathy,
Brian,
I.
Rick, I.
And Russ.
Aye,
Aye. Okay, that's the unanimous vote. Vote of the committee to support that article. See, any other items to discuss tonight?
I don't have a item to discuss, but I missed the part of the conversation. You mentioned when you're talking about the bridge that goes through the Robertson Family Conservation Area. Was that construction supposed to start in October? Or
That
was
would be
that
the
one?
best
Okay.
case scenario. There's a, we're trying to get the bid documents finished and on the street, and hopefully we'll get some bids. And the environmental window for construction begins October 15th, and it goes to 15th. That's to protect wood turtle.
Yes.
So the earliest construction could start would be October 15th.
Okay.
I've got one.
Russ.
The church across the street is gonna need a new roof. With the historical commission coming sometime this summer, and we talk about putting a new roof on the building. We do have the money to have it painted,
Unholy Angels.
but that's never happened. Painting never happened. So it needs a new roof now. The roof now is leaking. We have a nice building right in the center of town, and it needs to be maintained.
Well, definitely get on the agenda for one of our next meetings, and it could be a possible fall town meeting article potentially. So I know there's
Yeah, the painting was approved at the last town meeting, wasn't it? Or 2 town meetings ago? Because I remember there was a robust conversation about why are we repairing and painting a building that isn't being used. But that never moved forward?
just questioning whether the painting has moved forward or why it hasn't yet.
Why
it
it hasn't,
Yeah.
it's the lead paint. The contractor we had didn't really hire, he looked at it, he didn't want to touch it because of the lead paint.
Oh,
But yeah, we had the Grange Hall done, and they scraped the lead paint off and painted it, didn't have a problem.
okay. Okay.
He's not interested in painting the church.
So the same person who did the Grange isn't interested in doing the church.
No,
Just as a note, Russ, the Grange is gorgeous. You guys
It
did
did.
such a good job on it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice to see the Grange,
Yeah.
or like it has been.
It seems like it's being used too, like people are doing stuff there, which is nice.
you say,
Just that it's nice that the Grange is being used,
oh, yeah, yeah,
and it looks great.
it's one piece of property that's been taken care of.
Okay, so any other comments? If not, motion to adjourn, everyone's favorite motion.
I
So
second
moved.
that.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none.
No,
Micah?
Chris, I.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. And thanks, Michael, for
Absolutely.
the
Thank you.
technology.
Night, everyone.
Night, folks.
Thank
Good night.
you. Good night.